Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Judith Awesome here with You Can't Be Serious. This is our third podcast, and this morning we have the honor of speaking with Bob Mankin, and he is a very seasoned entrepreneur. He's going to tell us all about it. I'm in Montreal, but Bob... Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Judith. How are you?
Pretty cloudy there. Not very sure.
Yeah. What's going on? I never use my laptop here, so let's see if we can
dust it off.
Yeah, I guess that's close to get.
That's okay. We'll take it. That's okay. We'll take it. So you're in sunny California?
It is sunny in California right now. A little too warm for me, but it is what it is.
I'll trade you. It's been raining here for days.
Oh, goodness.
So hope you got your coffee.
I do.
Thanks for waking up early for us.
Got the big cup ready to rock.
Bob, have you always lived in California?
Yes, I'm a native Californian. Grew up in what you might know as the wine country, up in Northern California.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Don't know that area very well. But you've avoided the fires and all the nonsense that's going, not nonsense, but all the terrible things that have been going on there?
Yeah, it's a little, well, it's actually north and south of me because Northern and Southern California has the problem. So one of the big fires we had last year or the year before was in an area where I grew up. You may not know Santa Rosa, but they had a huge fire there about a year and a half ago that took out a whole lot of houses. I think it burned about 5,000 or 6,000 homes in one 8-hour period. It was just amazing.
Wow.
Because that wasn't where I grew up in. Yeah. Everybody's got those problems. Canada's not immune either.
No, that's true. We've had a lot of forest fires out west, and as a volunteer fireman, I have worked on a lot of fires.
Oh, and you're a volunteer.
Roadside and forest fires along the 401 and the highway. They can be pretty scary business. That's for sure. That's for sure.
I grew up in a volunteer household, so my dad was a volunteer for 30 years. So
my dad was a volunteer fire chief.
Oh, wow.
Part of the fire meetings that I didn't get to go to was the drinking beer at the end of the meetings. On the meeting.
Back in those days, yeah. I remember playing pool on the pool table that was in the back of the firehouse where they're having beers, after hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could get away with different things back in those days.
Yes, that's for sure. A lot different. So I just want to remind everybody that in order for your comments to be seen, and we can actually post them here if you have some questions for Bob. In order to be seen, please log on to StreamYard, and then we'll see your name and your comments. So just want to make sure you've got that down. Where would you like to travel, or where have you traveled that has been interesting to you?
Well, I've been in Montreal once, 1991. Actually went up there for the Formula One race, which you just had last week. Yeah, it was beautiful up there. Yeah, I've been in racing most of my life, and that was an experience. Montreal, very pretty city up there.
Montreal and Quebec, very, very historic. It's a nice place. It's interesting. Last night I took the dog for a walk, and I ran across a convenience store, and the province of Quebec is the only place in Canada right now where you can actually buy a beer or wine in a corner store.
Really?
So I bought a beer because I could, and I brought it home and forgot it. My one lone Molson Canadian beer, my token beer.
Yeah, you guys have real beer up there too. You don't have that wimpy stuff we have down here.
We have a lot of craft shops, but we're quite serious about our beer. That's quite a shock of hair that you've got. I'm usually seeing you with a baseball cap on.
Yeah. I don't have the mane that Chris does. I got that going on. You don't have to worry about balding in his senior years.
But I do have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's something that I've been thinking about over the past week, and yes, I'm going to go there. Get ready. I'm curious.
Told you I put my asbestos Sundays on. Well, actually, I'm going to let you guess. I could be going commando for you all you know.
Not so far. I just checked.
Got me.
When you were growing up and you were in school, kids are just miserable at bullies and everything else. I was bullied as a kid. I'm just wondering, though, how instrumental was your birthmark in picking up chicks?
Instrumental? Well, I don't know about instrumental.
Not to take away from your own charm, of course.
No, you know what? It's kind of funny. It's not something I really thought about growing up. I wouldn't say I was bullied because of it.
Well,
I could see why people would think that I would automatically think that I was, but I grew up in a small town, like 3,500 people at the time. I think it's 10,000 now, but everybody knew everybody, and there were bullies in our school like anywhere else. But I don't know whether I just had accepting friends or whatever the case may be.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and today, as an adult, it's not something I think about. It's just I go out and do my thing. I just did a presentation a couple of days ago for a police activities league group here. And I have to go out and interface with people all the time and network and so on. It's just not something that
something you think about. That's good.
No, you're just thinking about what what the content is, what you're bringing to the table for these folks. Because I truly believe that the services and the ideas that we're bringing are of great value to these folks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where my mind is. The rest of it doesn't really matter to me.
That's
so
good.
If I can do it, I'm going to look at all you out there and say, get over it. Whatever that fear is. Like you and I talked previously, I don't do enough video. I do video for training and for my clients, but I don't do just random training videos. And Chris has asked that I kind of get in and contribute more in the chamber group, and I will do that. It's just a matter of getting in the habit, if you will. And I commend you for what you're doing with the podcast here, because you're going to encourage some folks to get past their comfort zone and get out there and because that pays dividends.
That's something that I'm hoping to encourage a bit, and maybe I'll be able to open up the mic to some people who would just like to practice, because until you've done it, it just all seems rather inconceivable. And what are people going to say? What am I going to look like? What comments are they going to have?
Right.
With Video Remix, actually, that's where I started doing the lives, and at the request of Dean. And I just discovered that it was kind of fun, if you went about it the right way. And I decided I didn't really give a damn what anybody thought.
That's a lovely attitude. It really is. You have to do it without being offensive, and I can be sarcastic as heck, and my friends understand me, and that's all good. But I have to be a little careful out there in the public. Don't want to offend the neighbors, so to speak.
I see some people see here where it says Facebook user hello, and hello guys. That's because those people haven't logged on to StreamYard. If they do, we can see who's saying hello. Whereas
Chris jumped. I saw Chris jumped in there. I'm not sure.
Yeah. He owes you a beer.
Yeah, well, I will collect one day on him.
No doubt is the survivor.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with his platform, so I'm just gonna poke around in here. I see the private chat, but I don't see anything flow in there.
You can't. I do.
Okay.
So if something comes out of interest, I'll make sure that we have a look at it. Excellent. What's one of your best fishing stories? Because you like to fish, and this is related to fish. Everybody has a good fishing story. What's one of your best?
One of my best. I do like to. I don't get to fish as much these days as I used to, and in fact, I sold my boat recently because I wasn't using as much as I should. And boats don't like to sit; they just kind of start rotting on you. But I will get back into it when I get a little more time. my best fishing story is probably when I was pretty young, like about 12 years old, fishing with my father out of Klamath River, which is in Northern California, close to the Oregon border.
Uh-huh.
Um, and we're fishing down near the mouth where the river meets the sea. And it was interesting because this was the early 70s, and we're in a little 14-foot aluminum boat
Uh-huh.
down there with the crowd because it's salmon season, the fish are running, and it's just very crowded. So we're down near the mouth of the river. We wanted to get away from the crowd, so we went upriver a little bit where it kind of opens. There's a little bit of a sort of a lagoon. We're fishing around out there, and suddenly my line just starts zinging out, and I'm like, "What in the heck?" I'm a young kid. I didn't, I fished for a while, but I wasn't like a great fisherman or anything. And all of a sudden, maybe 30, 40 feet from the boat, a whale comes up. I had literally hooked a whale.
Oh
Yes, a whale had come in, probably during the night or something, and was kind of milling around inside there. And holy smokes! So there's my fishing story.
no! That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. I don't know how to estimate the length of it. It was probably a 30-foot something or other. I
Was
don't
it
even
a
know what
Norco
type of
maybe? Was
whale.
it black and white?
No, it was kind of a purplish and gray,
Oh,
or gray and white. I can't remember the colors too
yeah,
much, but yeah, it surfaced close enough that real well, in a 14-foot boat, if it surfaces underneath it, you got a big problem.
yeah, that's right.
But I hooked it, so we chased for a little bit, just trying to get my line back. But yeah, there's my fishing story. I literally have hooked a whale.
Well, that's a pretty darn good big
Mm.
fishing story. Bob, what have you accomplished in your business life that you're the most proud of?
You know what? Some of the things we're doing currently, I'm pretty proud of because of. I think it's because some of the mindset is sort of shifted, and our focus is really on driving value down to the client level. So we're doing some things with local chambers, working with Chris and some other folks in the group, and some programs that you'll probably hear more about in the main group shortly. And I'm really happy about that because I get enjoyment out of bringing value down to people, and just over delivering on the value, not just to ring the till or to
Hmm.
make money, but to bring digital marketing, current best practices in digital marketing, and trying to bring folks in the 21st century, because it amazes me in the business community, at least in my area. Maybe it's different elsewhere, but in the business community, a lot of folks are still very much old school. So they're in print advertising, newspaper ads, magazines, so on and so forth, mailers, and they just don't have. And I've learned this through one-on-one conversations. They just don't have a real firm grasp on digital marketing and how best to use it to promote their brand or their product or
Hmm.
service. So I get great enjoyment out of. Apologies, my allergies are acting up here. Um, I get great enjoyment out of helping educate those folks, whether it's just through like little brief masterminds or networking events at our chambers, or more formalized meetings or whatever. I really enjoyed that. I don't know, do you call that a success? I think it's a success because I've gotten some good feedback on it, and we're going to expand on that even further here going forward.
Sounds like it is a success.
Yeah, yeah. So that's I'm enjoying the moment, so to speak. How's that?
Yeah. Have you always been involved in digital marketing? What did you, I mean, that didn't even exist when we started out. So
No, no.
what's the
I've
trail of Bob then?
well, I've actually, most of my working life is in the tech field. Um, I mentioned I grew up in Northern California. Then I lived in Silicon Valley proper for
Okay.
25 years. I'm a CAD designer by trade, so I've worked in high tech for tier one companies, um, mostly in network products. So the hardware that drives the internet and networking, that's been my client base for a long, long, long time. Digital marketing, I built my very first website. Technically, it was an e-commerce site, although the term didn't exist. Back in 1997. I still have the domain name just for sentimental reasons. It's not live, but I still have the domain name.
What was that?
Coralfarms.com.
Okay.
It sounds a little weird. Well, you can probably guess from the name. It was a specialty aquarium filter for saltwater aquariums, and we also imported live fish and live coral out of mostly out of Southeast Asia.
Ah.
So it was an interesting business that I did for a few years, but it was very stressful because you're dealing with airlines and live animals and freight that gets delayed, and freight that gets delayed with stuff that's in a bag is not a good thing.
A bag in water.
Yeah, bag in water.
In water in a bag.
Yeah, I think the telltale on that that told me I was probably need to change and do something else was I was at a Delta cargo facility at San Francisco International in like early December. San Francisco International is obviously at sea level, and they don't get snow very often, but they did the day I was standing there at Delta Cargo.
Oh dear.
It was snowing a little bit, and I'm sitting there trying to pick up tropical saltwater animals that are, that want to have a bag temperature of 72, 73 degrees tops. So when it's freezing, and that's not compatible. And then there was one other incident, because I'm selling animals, I'm shipping them all over the country. I had a big order of live plants, which were extremely colorful. Some of them shipped them to a client in Cincinnati or Cleveland, somewhere back then. We ship them in the same boxes. They look like seafood boxes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they're not real big because they're just, we're shipping 8, 10, 12 animals, whatever. Shipped them out there. UPS, I think, is who I used. They went in the truck with all of the other packages the guy was delivering that day. Well, one of his deliveries happens to be a Red Lobster. My boxes look much like a Red Lobster seafood box.
Yes.
So guess where my live animals went?
Oh no!
To the freezer at Red Lobster. Needless to say, that was a
Oh dear.
unfortunate experience. So yeah, after a couple of those, I said maybe I should do something else.
Well, I was going to ask, what's one of your biggest mistakes or bloopers that you've ever had in business? And maybe that one sort of answers that, does it?
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. That's just one of the deals, but
things that happen. I get it.
Yeah, comes with the territory.
What about your personal life? What is one of the things that you're the proudest of for your personal life? One of your accomplishments?
Well, let's see. I have a daughter who's just graduating from community college. She's going to go into a 4-year school here next year. Looking to be a psychology major. So that's kind of an accomplishment that I'm pretty proud of.
Absolutely.
Well, it's her work. I'm taking credit for it.
Yeah, without you, where would she be, right?
Well, there you go. There you go.
You did have a hand in it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did have did play a role there somewhere.
So, how big is your family?
Just 3 of us.
Okay.
Myself, my wife, my daughter. We live in probably too big of a house here in California. Actually, I live about an hour east of San Francisco. I'm technically in the central part of California.
If you had a son, just for why not? What advice would you give him, both personal and business?
Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh. You think about these questions before you do this, don't you, Judith?
I was out walking the dog last night.
Yeah, good for you.
And he went woof woof, and I got it.
You know what? I would advise him just based on my experience. Really understand the value of your time, because that truly is your most valuable commodity. It's not something you can never get back. You can never get more of. You kind of have a finite block of time that we're sort of all assigned. Sounding like a fatalist here, but
Yeah,
um,
no, I'm with you.
so really understand the value of that time, and use it to the best of your abilities. Don't be frivolous with it. Don't waste it. There's certainly some things
Right.
in my past that I would like to redo now that I have a better appreciation of that. So if I
Mhm.
could help somebody, help my son, um, avoid some of that would be my advice.
What would you redo if you could
I would
redo something?
I would redo some of that time wasting stuff that I did. I don't like many of us. I'm sure have some crazy spells, if you will, during my lifetime that I'd probably rather use in a better manner, a more productive manner. Let's put it that way.
I just figured it had to be done.
Yeah, well, somebody had to do it, and I raised my hand that day, and there you go.
There you go.
But it wasn't necessarily productive.
What's one of the smartest business moves you've ever made?
Ooh, uh, let's see.
Pretty tough when you got to think fast on your feet, and
Well, I've done so many different things, and I'd say probably back at the start when I jumped into tech, that was probably a pretty smart move at the time.
uh-huh.
So that was I was going to college in the early '80s. I was working for UPS at the time, which paid pretty good for a college kid back then. Um, and I got the opportunity to work for this guy, learning how to lay out printed circuit boards. And back then it
Is
was
it printer circuit boards?
printed circuit boards.
Okay.
So all those little circuit boards that plug into that run the internet, basically. Circuit boards
Okay.
come in all shapes and sizes. Most of the stuff we do is fairly large and complex. But he gave me the opportunity, just working out of his house. Back then it was all done manually. I couldn't possibly explain it or do it justice, but
Uh,
we're just working in his spare bedroom. He had a few clients. I learned the trade. Um, we moved into an office of a company at the time with one of the very first computer aided design systems. It was a big system. It looked like a video game. It was just a big clunky system back in the day. This is the mid '80s. So I got the opportunity to go from doing it manually to working on a CAD system. So I just learned it on the fly. Didn't do any formal training on it. That was kind of a big opportunity because this is before the general public really even understood the internet, because we were doing strictly commercial products at the time.
you're reminding me that the first computer that I ever worked on, um, it was
How far
very.
does that go back?
It goes back to let me see now. I know I was working for the Canadian Egg Marketing Agency on an assignment. I was not counting eggs. Well, I kind of was. The computer was, say, the size of a big deep freeze,
That's a pretty
and it
big
was
size computer.
green,
Oh my goodness.
green metal, and it
Wow.
occupied this room with all these fans around it.
Yeah.
And
Heat.
with special permission and special training, you could go in and see the computer.
Oh my gosh.
And if you were lucky, you got to work on it,
Wow.
and I got to work on it. I can't. I have no idea what kind it was. It's. I'm sure nothing that even exists now. But I thought, wow, these are computers. We're not going to have one of these in our home anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I
We've
still
come a
remember
long way, baby.
we have come a long way. I remember my first PC in somewhere towards the late '80s. Well, it might have been mid '80s, '86, '87 maybe. And they were crazy expensive back then. Weren't very powerful, didn't have a lot of memory or anything like
Yeah.
that. But it gave me the opportunity to have design system that's a little more portable, for lack of a better word. So,
Yeah. My first Mac was it was my ex and I had a printing business, first impression printing, and we bought a Mac because you have to have a Mac to
oh
do
yeah,
graphics.
yep.
$25,000 later.
Oh my goodness! Wow, Steve Jobs send you a Christmas card for that? My goodness.
Wasn't even dual screen. Come on.
Mm. Yeah, I wouldn't. You know what? I'm on my laptop right now. I guess that's why the video is so horrible. I never use my laptop for video. But behind that is my dual screens. I wouldn't know how to. If I had to operate on a daily basis without at least two screens, I wouldn't know how to act. So
They are handy, that's for sure.
yes.
There's Chris saying his first computer was a Commodore 64.
Oh yeah, I think Chris told me that story a few weeks back. Yeah, I was not a Commodore guy. Strangely enough, I did have a Next computer at one time for a while. I don't know if you know what Next is.
Yeah, I do.
You do.
Yeah,
That was Steve Jobs in between Apple episodes project.
it was around for a little while.
It was a beautiful little computer. The boxes were, it was kind of designed similar to some of the Mac stuff back then, but there's a story behind the finish it was like a matte black finish they used on it. There's a whole story behind that, which I was sort of privy to because my boss at the time, I've been self-employed 95% of my adult life, but for a short period I worked for a company. And my boss, prior to the company we're at then, worked for Steve Jobs. He was his CAD manager
Ah,
in Redwood City, California at the time, at Next. And the finish on the Next machines was so unforgiving that there was any flaws in it coming out of manufacturing, there was no way to rework it. They basically just had to scrap it.
wow.
Extremely wasteful. Extremely wasteful. The cool little computer.
Um, Sorry, Chris is just sending me some little messages here, and I'm reading them. If you were not in this business, what business do you think you would be in?
Ooh.
I mean, you have a website, but you're not a fisherman. What about your website?
Yeah. That's a good question. I guess if making money was not the issue,
Yeah, why
I'd
not?
probably do something fishing related. For a while, I was, I still have all kinds of stuff that I can build custom fishing rods just from the bare components. And I've done some kind of wild looking designs just because I could, and I took pride in coming up with these designs. So they're all custom from tip to tip. Very intricate thread designs and stuff like that. So I would do something like that if I didn't have to, pay a mortgage, do all that sort of thing. So
I understand.
it'd be something that, because you enjoy it and you do it because you enjoy it. There's other opportunities out there. I mean, I was an Amazon seller for a few years. I actually still have an account. Made a little bit of money doing that for a couple of years because some opportunities presented themselves and I didn't want to turn them down. So
Gave that a whirl.
yeah,
What is
it's hard
this?
work, especially for an old guy like me. You got to hustle to make that work.
Yeah. What is the stupidest question you've ever been asked?
Oh goodness. Um, yeah, I over quote a comedian named Ron White.
Oh, I like him. Yeah.
You like Ron White? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can't fix stupid. I'm a firm believer in that, by the way. Stupid is forever. I just saw the meme the other day. Gosh, that's a tough one, dude. Nothing pops in my head on that.
Was my father used to say, if you can't glue it or dowel it, you got to at least duct tape it.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty
Glue it,
good.
dowel it, or duct tape it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I advocate in some local public safety issues. I'm on an advisory board for the sheriffs in the local area, and advocated on a fire issue for 10 years in our community because we have a substandard fire service.
Ah,
And I do get some silly questions in that field, but I don't want to get into the political thing. That's
okay.
frustrating more than anything else.
I understand. Is there anything that you wish you knew more about? A field that you'd like to explore, something that didn't interest you but you haven't tackled yet?
Ooh, that's interesting.
What does Bob get curious about?
Well, it's not that it's something I haven't tackled yet, but in the space we're working in, I'd like to have a deeper understanding of just where the minds of the consumer and the business owners are out there, because it would facilitate what I'm doing, but more I could then turn back to that desire to over deliver on the value and really fix their, if I can show up and be the solution to their problem, that's job security forever and ever right there, right?
It is.
But I enjoy that, providing that solution or providing that information that sort of gives them a breakthrough or an understanding that they didn't have before. If I can do that and come away with that sense of satisfaction, that's a big deal to me. So having a deeper understanding of what, their perspective, or standing in their shoes, if you could, I'd really like to have more of that.
Excellent. That's a healthy attitude for business, I think. The people who are in it, like, how much money can I make? What are they worth to
Yeah.
me? As opposed to, can
Yeah,
I
I
solve
think
the
too
problem?
many people run in with like, well, I've got the solution and I just need to sell you on the idea.
Yeah.
Um, okay. There's no possibility that you're wrong or a little off. I'd rather go in with the assumption of like, well, I've got something that I think is good, but I want to find out where all the holes are so that I can improve on it. I'm going to bring the Gen 1 idea to you, but where I really want to get is to Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4 that's optimized for your needs. That's kind of where my head goes.
Right.
However
Excellent.
strange that might sound.
No, that's good. That's good. So, Bob, how do you want to be remembered?
Ooh.
What
Well,
would you say?
like a lot of people, I'm sure you want to be remembered as you made a difference, right?
Ah,
So, you don't? There goes my assumption again. I got to stop doing that. Um,
is that my purpose in life to
oh
make a
gosh.
difference? I
So I
like it.
thought I said I didn't want to get political, and I still don't. But
Oh, Bob, we're friends. Get
no,
on.
some of the things I've done in the advocacy stuff on this public safety, because they're complex problems. They're all tax revenue based, which is a problem. There's never, it gets very complex and it's frustrating. But I've spent a lot of time in 10 years. I've probably spent approaching 2,000 hours of my time. I don't get paid for it. This is strictly just volunteer effort
Huh.
to go to the meetings, advocate, research the issues to understand the fundamentals of it. Um, and I can tell it's made a difference to some people because they've expressed in various ways that it has made a difference. It's helped them to understand, or it's helped to move forward the issue to try and resolve it. Everything from a local neighborhood thing. I live in an HOA, good or bad, that
It's
is
an HOA.
homeowners association, which are
Okay.
50-50 on the good and evil. Trust me.
Hmm. Okay.
Some people hate them, but the reality is in this, at least in the United States, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but um, HOAs have become a tool for new development because it allows the government to kind of shift the responsibility of building some infrastructure, the building and maintenance of infrastructure onto a private entity. So, for example, all of our streets in my neighborhood, that's the responsibility of the HOA. It's not the responsibility of the county or the city to come in and maintain the roads or do any of that.
Oh,
So that's a purpose of an HOA, and that's why it's becoming more of a thing. Well, we had an issue with our development in the way it was sold to us. I bought our house new. Um, it's supposed to be a secure community, and they left kind of a back door wide open, if you will, to the neighboring community, which we weren't told about that. That's kind of drugged me into politics, sort of kicking and screaming. I do a short straw one day, and next thing you know, I'm fighting with the county over how did this happen, and it was truly a baptism by fire,
Mm.
because I'd never been active in my entire adult life in anything political. So I had to get a deep understanding of uh, just kind of how government works, and it is frustrating beyond belief uh, how inefficient and not accommodating that it is.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm going way deeper in the story than I intended. But one of the things I learned is like, if you are willing to get in there and understand the ground rules and get a basic understanding of that, it's amazing how you can navigate some of these things. If you
Mm.
go in there with this idea in your head as like, well, this is the way it should be, and I'm going to impose my will on these people, you're in for a long, long, long day. But if you just go and you understand, as screwed up as it is, kind of how the system works and who the influences are and who the decision makers are, and work within that messed up framework and do some networking. Now we're going to bring the digital marketing aspect in there. You can do networking in the political circles just like you can in marketing.
Hmm. Oh, you have to.
People, yeah, build relationships, get to know people, and then they will take your phone calls. They will read your emails
Hmm.
instead of their staff becoming the gatekeepers for you. And you can get some things accomplished, believe it or not. And so that's kind of how we resolved our HOA issue. That ended up creating a friendship.
Hmm.
Um, one of my closest friends is a former county supervisor and her husband. Um, Built a great friendship with them that helped to, you know, uh, again, build those foundations and give some opportunities to advocate on some other things after that. And that was a nice skill set to pick up. And it's a life skill, because it's the things you're doing there. If you have the right attitude and the willingness to learn and the willingness to understand, as broken as the system is, how it works,
Hmm.
um, the skills that you learn doing that parlay into digital marketing or any number of other life skills. It really does.
Absolutely.
I talk
I
too much, dude. Did you know that?
I'm
Did you know
sorry.
that I talk too much?
No, I
When
think
I
you're doing
get go
well. We
when I
can
get
still
going on a
present.
subject, eventually you got to do one of these.
Oh, I will when I'm ready.
Okay.
I uh, I j- I know that our politics are different, and the structure is different between Canadian and American politics. But I've worked for the Prime Minister of our country. I worked for
Wow.
Prime Minister Trudeau,
I
uh,
think you mentioned that.
father, Papa Trudeau.
Wow. I think you
Actually,
mentioned that somewhere.
chased Justin around underneath his papa's desk.
Hey, wait a minute. There's got to be more to that story.
But I also worked for the leader of the opposition in Victoria. For it just happened to be the Liberal Party. I am
Yeah.
not affiliated with any party, and I made that clear from the beginning everywhere I worked. Um, but working in those positions and working at the legislature in Victoria, being on the front line, was very interesting and very helpful in
Hmm.
terms of knowing how everything gets played, and to go out to a scrum with Gord and see the media, the questions they asked, to see what was going on, how he responded, and then to see what was edited and spliced and put together and came on the
Uh,
broadcast made me ill.
yes, that is fascinating that you saw how the message is
And
manipulated.
then I'd be out with Kim and CKNW the next day going, Kim, you slaughtered him. What the hell
Oh,
happened?
wow.
You know that wasn't what he said.
That is
I
That's
didn't,
fascinating.
you
That,
know.
that's a fascinating life experience you had there. But it's good that you've seen the how the sausage is made, so to speak,
Mhm.
and it's terrible. And we're probably similar in our views just based on what you said there. So my views are center left, but I'm not affiliated with any party. I'm an independent. But some of my closest friends, including some of the folks I talked about, are very staunch Republicans. And we can have conversations for hours on end about very complex political issues. And the only thing we argue over in those is who's buying the next round of beers.
Yeah, that's good.
Because that's just sort of a higher level of discussing the problems. And I think we've lost that in society today. It's unfortunate. We've lost the ability to talk to each other when we have differing views. We've gone to our corners and we're throwing rocks from those corners. It's like, it's just such a horrible thing to watch degrade. I wish we'd get back to the middle and learn how to talk to each other.
It gets pretty ugly pretty fast, and that's a shame because there's no room for discussion.
There isn't, and we're all just people living on this small little rock hurling through space to get philosophical here. But let's come back together and learn to talk to one another. Let's have our views and be passionate about them, but be able to respect the other's views.
Respect.
Because I can find something in those views, and I genuinely look to those conversations to try to understand the person's position. But it's difficult if they're not in the same mindset or accommodating you. So then you kind of get forced to the corners, and that's not good.
Right. Bob, I think 45 minutes here. I think we'll wrap it up. Hey, what do you think? Have you got anything else that you would like to tell us about you and your business and what you're up to?
Well, I mentioned we have some things going on with Chris and some of the other folks in the group, and you had Rick on. He's got some things going on, and I'm trying to facilitate what they're doing. I should have prepped you for this. I'm gonna you kind of brought one up on me, so
I'll throw it on me. Lay it down, brother.
This is an offer. This is just throw something out there, just a freebie. You gave away lobsters a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I missed a lobster. Darn it. But so let's do it. Would you be up for a giveaway?
Absolutely. Okay. What have you got in mind?
Well, so why don't we do it? Because I'm assuming the crowd or the viewers are going to be primarily digital marketers like ourselves and potentially agency folks in a lot of cases. So why don't I give away a 60-second commercial or video, 60-second video. If you've got one that falls in niches that I have existing, where I've got an audio track that will fit, I'll include the audio track. But at a minimum, I'll give you a video and background music to advertise your agency. Well, if you're an agency, I'm sure I've got a complete template. It'll be 60 seconds. All you got to supply me is your logo. I'll take care of the rest. So I'm going to suggest this. This is your show. I'm not taking it over yet.
Go for it. I'm not
taking it over yet.
Take it away.
I'll fly out there and I'll literally grab the microphone. Wait for me if I got to take it over. Why don't you do this? So the people that are live, just in the comments, they can comment live on the Facebook thread. People that come in later. So we'll do a hashtag live for anybody that's live. Just get in there right now, you guys. Get your fingers busy. This is audience participation time. People come in and watch the replay later. Just type in hashtag replay.
Hashtag replay. Okay.
And then Judith, at let's say Monday evening,
all right,
you're going to randomly pick a winner.
I'm going to randomly.
Yes. You randomly pick a winner out of the people that comment either at hashtag live right now or hashtag replay later between now and Monday evening. Out of people that comment, you pick a winner, you just send them to me and we'll get them hooked up.
And it's a 60-second commercial.
I could give you, I don't have, in this format, I don't have the ability to actually show you one. I'm using them myself in my own marketing efforts. So it'd be a video similar to that. You can use it wherever. You can use it in social media, YouTube, run ads with it, do whatever you want to do with it. I'm just giving you the content.
Thank you so much, Bob. That's very generous. I appreciate it.
I'm more than happy. I appreciate the opportunity to get to chat with you and catch up, and I learned a lot of things about you. I know you're trying to grill me. You're trying to catch me, but that's okay. I enjoyed it.
I wasn't trying that hard.
No, that's okay. It's all in good fun. It's all in good
It
fun.
was. Thoroughly enjoyed it, Bob. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you, Judith.
And hang on for next week where we're going to see Mary Sloan. She's coming on board next week.
That's a good one.
So
I look forward to that.
In the meantime, do that hashtag replay to win the
Or hashtag live. If you're on right now, just hashtag it live so that way, whichever way you get your comment in.
That's great. Oh, we got some comments. Let me see. Chris, of course. Great prize. Hashtag live. Facebook user. But you know what, Facebook user? Look up. You have to log into StreamYard so that you can see who it was that could possibly win.
Yes. You can't win if I don't know who you are.
That's right. We're not going to give this 60-second video to Facebook user.
Yeah, the logo might look a little too generic there. So the only requirement is I need a logo from you so I can brand it for you. Other than that, I'll handle all the rest of it for you.
Excellent. I just might have to hit replay myself.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Thank you very much. Finish up your coffee. Go back to bed. Are you going back to sleep?
Oh, no. I got many things. My plate is stacked high today.
Stacked high today.
Yes.
No rest for the wicked, is there, Bob?
No, but I enjoy it, so it's not really.
Thank you very much. And hope to get the honor to chat with you again.
Awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, there you have it. Number 3 in the can now. Our third interview. Excellent to talk to Bob. And next week, we're going to be speaking with Mary Sloan. Don't forget, if you're live now, put hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. Make sure that we can see your name, who it is, and you might win a 60-second video. Compliments of Bob Mankin. Thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you next week.